Top Game with your host, Sammy Castro. Episode 0, a solo mission, one of the lost tapes. Hit us up at the new website, topgamepodcast.com. Find us on iTunes, tell your friends, subscribe, leave reviews. Thanks for tuning in. First off, I wanted to record episode 0, kind of a solo piece to give some feedback in I guess, background on what started this project, this endeavor. But I first want to state that since the release of the first 4 episodes, I've gotten considerable amounts of feedback, much more than I had initially anticipated. I didn't know what this was going to, how large of an audience this would eventually reach, but suffice to say that it's already gotten beyond what I initially anticipated. In episode 4, I discussed with Kevin Simmons on whether I was the right person for this project, and I think a little bit of that is that professional paranoia that I had mentioned before with some of the other guests that I've had on so far. But he and others have confirmed the validity of what I'm trying to do here. And when it's all said and done, what it comes down to is what Master Sergeant Thomaston had mentioned directly, which is know yourself and seek self-improvement. And this is my process for doing that. I'm just hoping to capture it and include anybody that would pick this up along for the ride. So for that peer-to-peer mentoring that I'm seeking out and capturing, hopefully someone else can gain from my placement and access, if you will. But to kind of dial it back and tell some of the backstory for those that haven't gone through some of the other episodes. Not too long ago, I was TAD in Texas with some peer master sergeants for several weeks. We were conducting a learning analysis for an MOS producing course for the 2691 Signals Intelligence Electronic Warfare Chief, MOS. And during the midst of that working group, at the first opportunity, me and 2 guys, John Scoggins and Kevin Simmons, beelined out of small town Texas, San Angelo, to take a road trip, snag a hotel room across the street from the Alamo, and met my mother there for the weekend. Now, bear in mind, at this point in time, I was still new to the flat black domain, and believe me when I say that the jump to Master Sergeant is huge. And one of the TTPs that I snatched up early on in my career was that some of the best mentoring can take place when you've got extended periods of movement or isolation with your fellow Marines. So when available, I would snatch up a master sergeant or a gunny at the smoke pit, even though I didn't normally smoke. I mean, I'd bum a cigarette here and there. I didn't dip, but if I saw, a senior staff NCO who had already caught my attention as a go-to person, a professional, I would link up with them and just try to pick up some wisdom. And this road trip was a perfect opportunity to do that. And one of the guys along for the ride, Simmons, was already approaching his EAS as he had reached his 20-year mark and had dropped papers. Having shored things up on the home front and wanting to dedicate more time to his family, he'd reached a point in his life when he was ready to move on. My other companion, John Scoggins, he was still on the fence at the time, and having spent the last few years as the Ockfield sponsor, or specialist rather, which is arguably one of the most challenging billets in the field for a master sergeant, at least in the 26XX community. He wasn't sure if he and the family were ready for another PCS. And over the course of that weekend, we had some smiles and cries. And, we laughed and we shared war stories, and we were able to confide in one another in a way that's often difficult for us. With John being in the DC Beltway, Simmons being in Hawaii, and me being in Okinawa, the Rock. It was great to have that time face to face without a webcam or handset between us to get some, real solid interaction amongst guys that have done it. And we've, gone different paths and done different things and whatnot, but there's still enough trends and similarities, common thread lines in our paths that we're worthy of investigation and in-depth discussion and conversation. And it was invaluable for me. Mind you, I'm still new to this realm, no longer being a gunnery sergeant and having to figure out how the game has changed for me. And I thought over the course of that weekend that, man, how great would it have been to have been a young sergeant with access to this type of banter, discussion, back and forth between, three very headstrong and opinionated individuals. If I could have been a fly on the wall when guys like these three, myself included, were just hanging out and being themselves, what could I have picked up from that? What could I have learned from their mistakes? What could I have learned from their successes? And that essentially is the idea behind Top Game. I want to sit down with my peers and ask them, what have you done to maintain a balance in your life while in this gun club of ours? And if it only helps one Marine along the path, it'll be worth it. But only a few episodes in, and I can honestly say it's made an impact on me already. And the format is simple. There isn't one. I just sit down, I press record, and I've got a notebook, by my side, and it's got some generic questions, but I don't want to dial it in like that. And when there's a history or a friendship or a relationship already pre-established with the guest, I'm looking to dig in and get as personal as they'll permit me. And part of that is going to be the quid pro quo, and allowing them to see that, hey, I'm in here, I'm in this box with you. And, I've already opened up about some things that I've surprised even myself about, because I am a very private person until you get to know me. And I won't know everybody that listens to this. So there's some vulnerability there in that. I've had requests already for specific future guests, and I will continue to take them and approach them for an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation and press record when the opportunity is there. They will not all be Marines. I think there's some value added in grabbing up a salty Master Chief or old hand contractors that are no longer in or didn't necessarily stay down the same path that I did. But I think there's still plenty to be learned from individuals that are still around and doing it, although in a different aspect, be it out of uniform, in uniform, different uniform. But to go back to what Master Sergeant Thomason said, this is about my efforts to seek self-improvement. And I hope that for those who've chosen to subscribe, that they get something out of it. I feel it's necessary to state openly how difficult this is for me, primarily because of the fact that there is a significant amount of trust associated with these interviews. And the guests that I've had on so far, and the guests that I've identified as future participants, are essentially being skylined. Their personal lives, their professional lives, and it's not something that we do instinctively. But there's a value to it. And as such, I feel it incumbent upon me to honor that vulnerability. Because what I'm essentially doing is allowing them to commit a form of seppuku. And I am functioning as their second. And it's crucial. I perform my task cleanly and efficiently and effectively in order to respectfully present the information, the content, and to ensure that it maintains a high level of production value. So switching up, I've revamped the webpage for the podcast and got rid of the default interface from Libsyn and built a custom page on Squarespace. I've added in there links on the bottom for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So you can find us now at topgamepodcast.com to make it easier. But what I would love to see from those that are interested is some type of feedback and interaction with regard to where to take this thing next. I've got a list of heavy hitters on the roster that I've been requested to secure interviews with. But I'd also like to hear from the audience what it is you'd like to see me ask and cover. So any recommendations or constructive criticism along those lines are definitely welcome. I've had a few others request for me to video record the conversations, and I'm exploring that, but I don't think I'm there yet from a digital media creation standpoint, but I haven't ruled it out completely. There's been some requests for either t-shirts or stickers with some of the taglines that have come through in the interviews, such as Sonny's No Slack, which he didn't coin, but man, he's definitely using it out there at Third Radio Battalion, and good on him. I told him I would bring it back here to the MEF and post that up somewhere so that it can be a constant reminder to the Marines that we need to be ready. So with all that being said, I need your help. I need you to subscribe. I need you to review. I need your input in order to make this project to be something of value and worth to the greater community. I'm willing to entertain sponsors in order to defray the costs for production and hosting services, which are quickly starting to ramp up. You can hit me at topgamepodcast@gmail.com, as well as paypal.me/topgame. Thanks for your support. And with that, we're out.